What's really good? What's really good? What's really good? Welcome back to another Friday Night Live with the Sanchez Show. Hope everybody's enjoying their long weekend. Appreciate you guys rocking with me on a Friday night. As always, I'm your host, Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in Two Games. Make sure you are subscribed to the Sanchez Show. Obviously, we're live every Friday on YouTube, but also make sure you are subscribed over on Spotify. We're going to start putting more content up over there as well. Make sure you follow me across all social media platforms. You see the handle right there. Legend in Two Games, completely spelled out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Shoot me a like, shoot me a comment, hit me up over there. Send over your questions, comments, any topics you want to see discussed on the show. It is Friday, August 30th, which means we are within 1 week of the start of the NFL season. And if you've tuned in the past, as you know, this when things start to heat up. We got NFL picks. We got predictions tonight. We're answering any questions and comments. Shout out to Ron Ron. Ron Ron flooded us with a bunch of comments and questions that we're going to start off the show with tonight. So appreciate him for that. I'm also going to be giving you my AFC and NFC West predictions. If you haven't already, go back to the previous episode. You see I broke down every division. We did 2 a week leading up to this week. And then next Thursday, the season kicks off. Chiefs at home against the Ravens. And then Friday, we got a game, Green Bay and Philadelphia. That one, I believe, is in Brazil. So a great time to be a football fan. College football is back. We got a college football question that we're going to get to later tonight. And also, make sure you guys are subscribed to Real Fans Real Talk. Shout out to my brother, Trip Young. We will be back live again on Sunday to recap this week in sports, as well as prepare you guys for the upcoming NFL season. So again, hope everyone is having a great Friday and enjoying their holiday weekend. Let's get to it, right? Here we go. Let's start with the questions. Again, shout out to Ron Ron. A lot of great questions in here. He's got some college football questions. He got some WNBA questions. He got some NFL questions. We'll start with this. This Prescott's last year in Dallas. It's a great question, Ron Ron. It's one of the things that we've continued to discuss. It's one of the reasons why I'm not too big on the Cowboys this upcoming season. I thought, and I still feel that there are a lot of distractions there in Dallas. Yes, I know they worked out the CeeDee Lamb contract, but you still got a lame duck coach in Mike McCarthy. You still got a quarterback who doesn't have a contract. We got a lot of uncertainty there. And those things kind of bother me, especially when you're a team that hasn't proven you can win in the playoffs. It would be different if the Cowboys had a track record of success in the playoffs and having deep playoff runs, but they haven't had that. So to really figure out how they're going to handle the distractions this year is tough to tell. Personally, when we did the East last week, I said I think the Cowboys will probably win 9 games, but also miss the playoffs. I think the NFC is much more loaded than people realize when you look around the conference. Yeah, we know about the heavy hitters like the 49ers and the Eagles and now the Lions, but you got young ascending teams like the Packers, like the Bears, who I think will be a threat this year. I think there'll only be one team to come out of the South. I predicted that would be the Falcons. And then you got to pay attention to veteran teams like the Rams, who were a playoff team last year and still have a very explosive offense, and they expect to compete against this year. And when we do the West, there's some other things I want to talk about with the West, because there's one team I think out there that could be sneaky good. And I don't know if they're good enough to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be good enough to win some big games as underdogs starting week 1. And we'll get to that later on. But for the Cowboys, to answer this question, I don't think this is Dak's last year in Dallas. Jerry Jones has shown that he likes stability, whether it's good or bad. It's the reason why he stuck with Tony Romo so long. It's the reason why he stuck with Jason Garrett as his head coach for so long. It's the reason why Mike McCarthy probably should have been let go 2 seasons ago, but he's held on to Mike McCarthy so long, especially after last season. We really thought Mike McCarthy would be out the door. So I don't think Dak Prescott leaves. Also, another reason I don't think he leaves is where would the replacement be? If Dak gets injured on roster, we know they got Cooper Rush, they got Trey Lance. Neither one of those guys are NFL starter material. And then outside of that, the big quarterbacks, the impact quarterbacks are all locked up. So you don't have an opportunity to get any of them. Mahomes ain't a free agent anytime soon. Lamar, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, all these guys got their contracts ready. So there isn't the guy that you could upgrade. For whatever you feel about Dak, the conversation could legitimately be had that Dak is a top 12, at least top 15 quarterback at the very least. maybe even top 10, depending on how you feel about certain guys. Not a top 5. I don't think he's top 7. But he could possibly be a top 10. Definitely, I think a top 12 guy. So where's the upgrade if you're moving on from Dak? I don't see it available. It's not on their roster, and it won't be available next offseason. What I think and how I think this all plays out is that Jerry's going to allow Dak to play the season on this expiring contract. Then his play and his performance will determine what that next deal will look like. If Dak is amazing and the Cowboys go on a deep playoff run, Dak gets the new deal. If he struggles and the team struggles, then Dak's going to have to take the loss, and he'll still get paid well. It just won't be as great as he expected. So, Ron, to answer your question, I don't think this is Prescott's last year. I don't see the replacement on that roster or potentially in free agency. Keeping it NFL and quarterback related. NFL players voted Josh Allen most overrated quarterback. I'm not surprised. If it wasn't last week, it was the week before. I think it was Tyson who asked the question, who's the most polarizing quarterback? Josh Allen was one of the 3 that I mentioned, because there are varying opinions and views on Josh Allen as a quarterback, as a leader. Should he be discussed in the same caliber as a Mahomes, as a Joe Burrow, as a Lamar Jackson? Josh Allen's a really, really good quarterback, but I think some people around the league feel he's overrated and maybe more so overhyped because of what he's done. But when you look at his resume, he's had some strong playoff performances. The problem is he can't beat Patrick Mahomes. He's lost to Mahomes in the playoffs 3 times. That has become their Achilles heel. And then also guys like Joe Burrow have come in and kind of surpassed him because Joe Burrow beat him in a playoff matchup and went to a Super Bowl already. Josh Allen has yet to do those things. So I wouldn't call him overrated. I don't agree with that. I respect the players. They're on the field, so they see it every day. They analyze guys and they see the tape every day. But if we're going to say overrated, I don't see how you could have Josh Allen as the most overrated quarterback over Dak Prescott, who hasn't done much, over Kirk Cousins, who's another guy who hasn't had much playoff success. I think even Tua. I don't think Josh Allen should be voted most overrated over Tua Tagovailoa. These are all other guys who have gotten MVP votes at some point in their career. And none of those guys to me are better than Josh Allen. So I don't see how you could rate him the most overrated. But yeah, that's how the players feel. And again, this is one of the things we talked about last week with most polarizing players in the league. Ron, we're going to get to that college in a second. Again, make sure you guys subscribe to The Sanchez Show, streaming across all major platforms. Make sure that you guys are following me across all social media platforms as well. It is Legend in 2 Games, completely spelled out. You see the handle right there at the bottom of the screen. We do this live every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. If you've never tuned in the past, make sure, as I mentioned, you subscribe, of course. But keep in mind that we pick every game leading up to Sunday. We've got a great track record if you look back to the past couple seasons when we've done this. Again, every game on the slate gets picked against the spread. I also throw in a little bit of fantasy talk in there. And I give you my 401k pick of the week, which in most cases, again, it's the lock of the week. I tell you to bet it all. That's up to you. Use your own discretion. But I call it the 401k pick of the week because I feel that strongly about the pick. And as of last year, I believe at 80% clip, the 401k pick of the week was hitting. So definitely tune in for that. Let's get back to the questions. Let's take a little sip, though. I hope you guys are enjoying something on this Friday night as well. Let's see what we got. Ron wanted to know or talked about Steph Curry. Curry has agreed to a 1-year, $62.6 million extension. Thoughts on this? Well deserved. He's the greatest player in franchise history. He had 2 years left on his deal, so this contract extension, this extra year, now keeps him under contract through the 2026-2027 season. Again, well-deserved, greatest player in franchise history, and this also gives them the opportunity to potentially give him the farewell tour if he feels like that's the end of the road. Now, the 1-year extension was the most they could give him because at that point he will be 38 years old, and through new CBA rules, they can't extend him beyond that. It can only be on a 1-year basis. Same thing we're kind of seeing with Braun in LA. You can add on the year to whatever he has, things like that. So this is the road that they will take for the rest of Steph's career until he decides to hang it up. What I think it's tough to project now, and I tried to do it, but the numbers aren't there yet because we're talking about 3 years out, what it would look like as a roster, as a cap hit on their roster. right now for that season of 2026, 2027, I think him and Draymond and potentially a player option on Andrew Wiggins will be the only things on their cap. So you don't know what the rest of the roster is going to look like. Also, you expect there to be significant jumps in the salary cap over the next few seasons leading up to that season. So the 62.6 is a tremendous amount of money for one player, but 3 seasons from now, when we look at that number, it may not even be the highest average annual salary at that time. So for the Warriors and for Steph, this is more about legacy. This is more about just finishing this journey in one stop and securing that. Again, Steph, you don't ever have to worry about your future. Whenever you're ready to walk away, you can walk away. And as long as you feel you can still contribute, you contribute here, and we're going to compensate you significantly for it. We saw this kind of similar with Kobe. The only difference is at the end with Kobe, the injuries were slowing him down. With Steph, we know as the greatest shooter the game has ever seen, there's potential that he may have a longer shelf life than a lot of other guys because of the style of play. You know, he's not a guy who's going to rely too much on athleticism. He's going to be a guy who can rely on handle and being able to get that quick release off. So as long as he has that, he can play into his 40s, I think. And the Warriors may continue to just extend him on a year-by-year basis, which that's how I would expect it to play out. So appreciate the question over Ron. Let's do WNBA, and then we're going to circle back to some of these football questions that you have. Actually, hold on. We'll do this NBA comment. It's not even much of a comment. Did you see the attention or LeBron James say what Bronny can call him at work? Then he said he can call me GOAT. Shake my head. Remember LeBron? He irks me. I know he does, Ron. And there are things like this that I think from LeBron James irks all of us. Yeah, I've given my opinion on the Bron and Bronny situation several times. I think it's amazing that it's played out this way for Bron and Bronny, but I also feel that it's become very self-centered, and it's been more about how LeBron feels about this, more about what LeBron thinks about this, and I think it should be the other way around. This is Bronny's moment, and no disrespect to Bron. We know Bron is an all-time great. Wherever you have him listed, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wherever you have him, he's in that conversation. But for me, I just didn't like that this whole draft process for Bronny centered around what Bron wanted. And then now that he's on the team, now it's all about what Bron feels, what Bron thinks. Give Bronny his moment. That's going to be my only issue, and that's going to be the one thing I pay attention to moving forward as Bronny's career hopefully progresses beyond a rookie deal, because I really feel like they have taken all the joy out of this moment for Bronny. They've made it about Bron. They've made it about Rich Paul, the agent, and they've taken away Bronny's opportunity to just enjoy this moment as a draft pick and as a young man who is on his journey, who dreamed about playing in the league, and now he gets to play in the league with his dad, and now all we're doing is talking to his dad. So my thoughts on it, Ron, I agree with you, and I think that's why a lot of people get irked with LeBron James, because he becomes very self-centered. He becomes an attention whore, as you mentioned. He wants it on his terms, his way. Look at me, pay attention to me. And this is one of those moments I just wish he would have stepped to the side and said, no, let Bronny handle his business the way he wants to handle it. And I've said all along, I'm not just talking about this comment. I've said for quite some time, when the draft process was playing out, I didn't like that Bron and Rich Paul were speaking on behalf of Bronny. Well, he ain't going to take a two-way contract. Well, he looking for the best possible coaching situation. Well, he looking for this, he looking for that. And then, up until draft day, well, if you draft him, he ain't going to play for you. Like, I didn't like that. I would have liked to hear Bronny tell us what he wanted out of this process and what he was looking for. And I think, like most young men who dream of playing in the NBA, he would have been happy with any team drafting him. It didn't have to be his dad's team. It didn't have to be this media circus that centered around, could Bronny land on the Lakers? I think he would have been more than happy to play for any organization and hear his name called on draft day. So, yeah. Now that we got that out the way, we'll get to one more NFL. Then I'm going to get to this college football stuff. 2 more NFL, 2 college football questions in here. Again, tonight I am breaking down the AFC and NFC West, my predictions for how the division will play out. Excuse me. Then we also got Thursday night game picks and the Friday game. Crazy. But yeah, will the Steelers make the playoffs? I don't think they will. In my predictions, I had them finishing third. I think the defense is going to be good this year, especially if they can stay healthy. We know TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward out last year. But if those guys are healthy with Minkah Fitzpatrick, you got a lot of game records. You got a lot of guys who create havoc on that defense. So I expect that defense to be really good. Russell Wilson didn't look good in the preseason. Now, he's a veteran. Maybe it was just taking him time to gel with the receivers. One of the questions we recently had on Real Fans Real Talk was about the Steelers offense. And I said, I think the biggest issue they've had is that offensive line, which I think has struggled at times, not only in pass protection, but also in run blocking. Najee Harris is not a game-breaking running back. He's not a guy who's going to make a bunch of guys miss. So you got to block up front from him and let him get to that second level where he can start to then punish guys in the secondary. If he's got to start making too many guys miss, he's never going to be the type of back that you want him to be. But in terms of playoffs, I think they're a third-place team unless the Joe Burrow injury in Cincinnati is more severe than we realize, and unless the Ravens take a step back. If one of those two things happen, then Pittsburgh jumps up. But right now, for me, I like the Bengals a lot to win this division. Jamar Chase, I know there's been a lot of talk about the contract. He's going to play. And I've never subscribed or believed that he was going to even run the risk of sitting out. He has 2 years left on his contract. That is foolish advice that he was receiving if someone told him, oh, yeah, just sit out now. He has no leverage. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. He has no leverage. So I think the Bengals are a legitimate playoff team who could win this division. They're playing a fourth-place schedule, and their talent is far better than that. So I think they'll feast on that. I think the Ravens are a really good team still, and the Ravens will be in the mix again, if not winning the division, damn sure as a wild card team. So for me, Pittsburgh will not make the playoffs because I don't see three teams in this division making the playoffs. We're going to get to the AFC West and who I think could come out of the AFC West. But I've already said I like the Jets and Dolphins out of the East. I like the Texans out of the South with the Colts as a potential. And I like the Ravens and Bengals out of the North. So just based on what I said right there, that already puts you at 5. You would still need a winner from the West, which would give you 6. And then that final playoff spot, to me, would come down to, can Buffalo get in as a third? Can the Colts get in as a second team out of the South? Could Pittsburgh get in as a third team out of the North? And then could the Chargers who have an easy schedule, and we're going to get to that in a second. Jay Herbo's health is the most important thing out there for the Chargers. They won 5 games last year. They're better than that. But if he's healthy, they're going to be in a playoff mix as well. And that's why I don't think Pittsburgh will make the playoffs. I think they're a third-place team who will have the opportunity to be in the mix. I just don't think they make it. Let's see what else. Keeping it NFL. Will the addition of Saquon Barkley make Hurts legitimate MVP candidate? I think it does. I think all the weapons, though, in Philly make Jalen Hurts a legitimate MVP candidate. I know they struggled down the stretch last year, but let's not forget what they did the year before and even halfway through last season when they were rolling. They are one of the toughest offenses to game plan for. They're one of the toughest offenses to stop, especially when they're clicking. The biggest drop-off from 2 seasons ago when they went to the Super Bowl and last year was the running game. Miles Sanders, who had a great year that year they went to the Super Bowl, when you look at last season, they didn't have that same production. No disrespect and no knock on DeAndre Swift. It wasn't the same as Miles Sanders the year before. Saquon is almost like a Miles Sanders on steroids in terms of what he can do production-wise and then physically the presence he brings, right? So we talked about Najee Harris earlier and a guy who can't make a lot of defenders miss. Saquon makes everyone miss. And then if he needs to, he can run through a tackle. And he's great in the pass game as well. So all the weapons, I think, make Jalen Hurts an MVP candidate. But yes, if we're talking Saquon specifically, absolutely. He makes him a legitimate MVP candidate. I think they're going to win this division. I think they're probably going to win about 11 to 12 games this year. And really, if Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are on good terms again, they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender again. I don't think there's any question that they win this division and make the playoffs. They're one of my true locks in terms of division play. I think they're going to win this division pretty easily. They're probably going to win about 2, maybe even 3 games over the Cowboys because I just think they're that much better than the Cowboys. But Nick Sirianni's relationship with Jalen Hurts, if they can get back on the same page that they were on 2 years ago, that can make them a Super Bowl contender again. And then you also got to factor in the loss of Jason Kelsey, all-pro center. How does that change the protection and things they were doing? We know, with the brotherly shove play that they run with Jalen Hurts and things like that. So those two things, I think, have a bigger factor on if Hurts is an MVP candidate and the success of the Eagles, I should say, not just MVP candidate, the success of the Eagles. Let's see. I'm not sure. Yeah. GZDR forever. All right. The Dolphins gave Tua $50 million per year. If Dak takes Dallas to the Super Bowl but lose, would Jerry have to give him $60 million to keep him? I think so. And that's a great comparison. And that goes back to what I mentioned earlier about if the Cowboys have a successful season, then Dak will get everything he wants. He'll be a top 3 paid quarterback, and he'll get a lot of guaranteed money, and he'll cash out. They'll have to back up the Brinks truck. But if he struggles, then Jerry holds all the leverage, and then Jerry's going to probably bring him on a shorter deal, something similar to Kirk Cousins, where the annual money might match up, but it won't be as much money. It won't be a 5-year deal. Maybe it'll be closer to a 3-year deal. But that is a great comparison. You're right, because if he gets them to a Super Bowl, a place they haven't been in over 30 years, how do you not give him everything he wants? It's similar to when Joe Flacco took the Ravens to the Super Bowl on his contract year. How do you not give him the number that he's looking for when he's proven it to you, especially when he had to do it on an expiring contract? I think even if Dak gets him close to a Super Bowl, if he gets him to an NFC Championship game, I think the conversation would be, should he get $60 million a year over 4 years, 5 years? So that is a great comparison, though. Let's see what else we got here. There were 2 college questions. Let's see. This one right here. First, we'll start here, Ron. Can Hunter win Heisman if Colorado isn't ranked? Talking about Travis Hunter. I think it becomes very tough. The Heisman is about the attention that's being paid to the player. It's about the story that is attached to the player. Travis Hunter, as a two-way player, I think needs to be playing competitive football. And what I mean by competitive, not him in particular, but the team needs to be playing for a bowl spot, and even if a playoff spot would really help them. This the year that they expanded to 12 teams, right? If they're playing for a playoff spot, that would really help Travis Hunter. But if at least they're ranked, I think you can make the case for him. But if they're not, it's going to be tough for him to get Heisman consideration over, the quarterback from Georgia, the quarterback from Texas, some of the other guys who are probably going to be playing for playoff spots, who are on ranked teams, who are going to be playing a lot of nationally televised games. And if you look at Colorado's schedule, early on, there's some very winnable games there. I think, and they're nationally televised games. I know the game against Nebraska is nationally televised. The game against Colorado State, which is a game they lost last year, is nationally televised. But at the back end of that schedule is where it gets really tough with some of those games. If they can be ranked and at least guarantee themselves a bowl spot, it will really help Travis Hunter. But rank plays a big factor in it. I don't think you can be outside of the top 25 and get heavy consideration for it, because the Heisman committee will look at it and say your stats are not impacting winning, unfortunately. So that's what I think is going to happen there, Ron. You had another one here about Colorado as well. So let me double up on that. Colorado defeats North Dakota State 31-26, buying stock in the Buffaloes. I'm not. I love Deion Sanders. I love the 2 young men, and he's got, I think, really multiple pro prospects, because I think Jimmy Horn Jr. is a sneaky pro prospect, very speedy wide receiver who you see run all the routes. So I think they have 3 guys on that offense who could be playing in the pros very soon. But of course, the main 2 are Shador and Travis Hunter. I'm not buying stock in them, because what I saw yesterday was a lot of what we saw early in the season from Buffalo last year, from Colorado, I should say, last year. Pass protection is shaky at best. It's putting it very nice, because Shador made some amazing throws under duress and under pressure. Again, this is a North Dakota State team that should not be getting to the quarterback and hitting your quarterback this much. Shador is expected to go in the top 10 of the draft, and he's taking a beating against North Dakota State. That's a problem right away. They still can't run a ball. I think they had 23 attempts for 56 yards. That ain't going to cut it against better competition. And next week against Nebraska, who's going to try to play keep away against you, it will be interesting. If you look back last year, they beat Nebraska. They turned it on in the second half. But if you look in the first half of that game, Nebraska was playing keep away and kept the score close. It's just that Nebraska could not throw the ball down the field. If Nebraska got in anything longer than the 3rd and 4 and they had to throw the ball, it looked bad. But when they was able to stay ahead of the chains, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, they were consistently getting first downs, because the other aspect is Colorado still can't stop the run. North Dakota State was getting a lot of first downs yesterday. The score makes it look competitive. But again, North Dakota State was ahead early in that game. 3rd quarter, Colorado has a big 3rd quarter. North Dakota State scores a late touchdown and make it look closer than what it really should have been. I'm not buying stock in Colorado. They got to look better the next couple of weeks. Warren Sapp is working with that defensive line. That's got to get better. That pass protection has been terrible. Shedeur was one of the most hit quarterbacks last year in college football. He's going to be on pace to do the same thing again if they don't figure it out very, very soon. Let's see. I know we got some other football stuff, questions that came through. We said Brock Purdy's waiting to do the Birdman hand rub. He is due for a huge payday. He took his team to the Super Bowl. Again, it's a great statement, and you're right. His 2 years as a starter, he's been to the NFC Championship game and he's been to the Super Bowl. And it will be interesting to see what happens with him. He was a 7th round pick, so he's going into that 3rd year of that contract. He's going to be eligible for an extension very soon. More importantly, they gave Brandon Ayuk the new deal. The news had broke yesterday. So somebody will be the odd man out here. There's no way you can afford to pay all of these Pro Bowlers at the same time. You're already paying Debo, you're paying Kittle, you're paying McCaffrey, you're paying Trent Williams, right? You're paying Bosa on the defensive end, Fred Warner. There's a lot of star players, star talent on that team. Somebody won't be there. And it will be interesting to see who will be the guy who's got to fall on the sword so that Brock Purdy gets his deal. Because you're right. Brock Purdy, in a lot of ways, too, it gets overlooked. Brock Purdy's performance as a quarterback has really saved Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. He saved their job, because when they drafted Trey Lance and they moved up and they gave up all that draft capital, Trey Lance was supposed to be the future. Trey Lance was a complete dud. They traded him away. Brock Purdy now has kept the 49ers in position to keep their window open to play for Super Bowls. If Brock Purdy had never turned into this type of quarterback, the 49ers would have really been fucked right now. They would have been in a tough spot right now with all of that talent and no quarterback to get the ball out. So Brock Purdy's going to get his, as you said, he's sitting back. He's smiling, not a care in the world. There is no pressure on Brock Purdy to perform because, as you mentioned, he's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to an NFC Championship game. It's on the front office now to make it work for him. And they're still a very, very good team. But somebody will either have to rework their deal or somebody is going to get traded or cut for Brock Purdy to get his new deal, because there's no way they let Brock Purdy. They're not going to let this play out like Dak Prescott. This will not be one of those things that linger to the last moment. John Lynch is going to try to secure Brock Purdy as early as possible so that they can work their magic with the cap number. Again, got a couple more questions and comments here, and then we're going to get to my thoughts and predictions for the AFC and NFC West this year, as well as picks for opening night Thursday night next week when Baltimore goes to Kansas City. Friday game, Green Bay and Philadelphia. So we're going to get into all that. I hope everyone got their holiday weekend off to a great start. Be safe out there, guys. Make sure, as I always say, make sure you subscribe to the Sanchez Show, streaming across all platforms, specifically on YouTube, where we go live on Fridays, as well as Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, yes. And then make sure you guys are following me across all social media platforms. Now, also, make sure you subscribe to Real Fans, Real Talk. We will be live again this Sunday, more than likely around 7:30 p.m. I threw out the teaser for it last week. I'm going to continue to throw this out at probably within the next few weeks. We're going to open up an opportunity for one of our supporters to win 2 tickets to an NBA game. I'm still working out the details because I know some of our supporters and followers are not all in the same city. Some people aren't in cities that have NBA teams. So if we can't get you to a game, then I want to definitely work out a way that we get you some sports apparel or something. We're going to work that out. I'm still working out the kinks on that, but stay tuned for that, because as we go into next week, we're going to tell you how you can enter in to win either 2 tickets to a game or possibly a gift card or some apparel. We'll figure that out. That more to come on that. We're still working out the kinks on that. But again, make sure you subscribe to the Sanchez Show. Make sure you follow me across all social media platforms. It is Legend in Two Games, completely spelled that, as you can see right there at the bottom of the screen. Make sure you keep tuning in every Friday night at 8:30 for the Sanchez Show. This is the Friday Night Live. Let's see what else we got. I'm going to get to that one in a second. I see that last question. I want to get to this statement by Ron, then I'm going to get to that last one. ESPN rankings have Reese leading the Rookie of the Year race. Is ESPN trying to push Angel Fever versus Sky tonight? Last time I saw the Sky were up 8 points tonight when I think it was in the second quarter. Ron, the only question I would have, and you can let me know, I'm not sure if you're still on the live now, but you can let me know. I know you tune in on a consistent basis. When you say they have her leading, are you talking about their writers? Because I know the odds makers. When I checked the odds makers as of yesterday, Caitlin Clark is still a heavy favorite. When I saw Caitlin Clark was a minus 3,000 to win Rookie of the Year, Angel Reese was a plus 1,500. So in terms of betting odds, Caitlin Clark is still a significant favorite to win Rookie of the Year. Now, if you're talking about the writers and the analysts at ESPN, it's possible that they have, or they're leaning towards Angel Reese. I think Angel has had a phenomenal season. For me personally, I still think it's Caitlin Clark, as I've said all along. The amount of pressure that she came into the season with, being the number 1 overall pick, and now having the Indiana Fever in position to make the playoffs, and they have a better record than Chicago, I think she's impacting winning more. I know Angel Reese has done some phenomenal things with the rebounding numbers and the double-doubles, but Caitlin Clark has had a very, very good season as well. I think Caitlin Clark has been a better overall player this year for her team. So for me, I think Caitlin Clark should be the Rookie of the Year. Angel Reese is going to be second. They're both going to be on an all-rookie team, and they're both the future faces of the league. I don't think ESPN has an agenda in trying to push Angel Reese. I don't see why they would have an agenda there. Because if anything, why wouldn't you want to push Caitlin Clark more? She is the more marketable player right now. And that's no knock on Angel Reese, but it's just a fact. She's just more marketable right now. But yeah, when next time you tune in, Ron, I'm going to ask for a little bit more clarification on that. Because when you said they have her leading, like I said, as far as I know, the betting odds are all leaning heavy towards Caitlin Clark. If that's your thing, if you bet, I don't know. Let's see here. Shout out to my man GZDR Forever. This is your first time I see you on the live, but I appreciate that. So I'm going to bring this question up first. I think WNBA will push for Reese as Rookie of the Year and Caitlin as League MVP. League MVP is tough. Asia Wilson is a heavy favorite to win that right now. Again, I looked at the numbers. I kind of gamble. I like to gamble. But I looked at the numbers. Asia Wilson is a heavy favorite. Caitlin Clark, I think, was 5th in MVP odds right now. I think the WNBA, I don't think they're pushing for either one. I just think that they're enjoying the fact that they're having their Bird and Magic moment right now. These two young ladies, with all the publicity they had coming out of college, them facing off 2 times in college, now bringing that star power to the league, I think that's what the WNBA enjoys the most. I don't think they're really caring about what award each one of them wins, because as long as we continue to tune in, the WNBA wins. That's what's most important. As long as we're tuning in, they win. So I don't think they would care if either one of them won a specific award. But I'm going to get to the other question right now. In terms of Jalen Hurts, you said you had a question about Jalen Hurts suffering a little because Saquon put up numbers. Do you think Henry put up numbers and hurt Lamar Jackson's chance of getting MVP? Yeah. I think it can happen both ways. I think for Jalen Hurts, because he is going to probably still put up great passing numbers with the receivers that they have, with Goddard, with AJ Brown, with Devontae Smith, and now you add Jahan Dotson. Jalen Hurts kind of can overcome if he doesn't score a lot of running touchdowns. If he doesn't have a lot of rushing touchdowns, I think Jalen Hurts will still be fine in terms of the numbers. But for Lamar, it will be a little different, because I don't think Baltimore is going to try to throw the ball around the way Philly will. I think Baltimore's going to try to get back to that identity of just a physical ground and pound type team with a lot of RPO action, a lot of 2 tight end action, because we saw Isaiah Likely come on late in the season last year. And now that they got Mark Andrews back, they'll be able to kind of go with that 11 personnel, 2 tight ends, 1 running back, and a lot of play action, a lot of bootleg, get Lamar on the run. Zay Flowers try to get him one-on-one with guys down the field. So I don't think Baltimore will try to air it out as much as Philly. So in terms of this specific question, yeah, King Henry could put up numbers that could hurt Lamar's chances because King Henry probably going to get 25 carries a game. Saquon, on the other hand, I don't think Saquon's going to get 25 carries. He might get 25 touches. It might be something in the range of, 17 carries, another 7 or 8 receptions a games in that range, where Saquon is active that way because Saquon can affect the game in so many different ways. But Jalen Hurts will still be in the MVP conversation because he's going to air it out a lot more than Lamar is in terms of schemes. He said they already gave Leah Boston rookie of the year last year. 2 fevers in a rookie in a row. I don't know. Yeah, but I don't think it matters if it's 2 years in a row because Aaliyah Boston winning last year wasn't highly publicized. So it wouldn't be the first time any basketball team has had multiple or back-to-back rookie of the years. We've seen it before. But also, Aaliyah Boston, it wasn't as publicized and it wasn't as much hype. I think Caitlin Clark winning it is correct. But if she doesn't win it and Angel Reese wins it, I don't think anybody would be mad about that either. I think they're both very, very capable of winning this award. I wouldn't be mad if you go with a co-MVP. But again, I think in terms of winning, Caitlin Clark has impacted winning more than Angel Reese. Angel Reese is putting up great numbers. But again, the Chicago Sky were a playoff team already last year. Now they're holding on for dear life to hold that last spot. If they don't make the playoffs, you can make a legit argument of like, well, they brought in Angel Reese and Cardoza and they didn't make the playoffs, whereas Caitlin Clark went to the team that had the worst record and did make the playoffs. How can you not give that a little bit more weight in terms of your rookie vote? How could you overlook her impact on winning along with the numbers when she took a team that had the number 1 pick and made them playoff teams? And on the flip side, Angel Reese went to a team that wasn't in the playoffs and then didn't make it this year. So that could play a factor in that as well. But great statements all the way around. Guys, as always, I appreciate you guys, man. Again, we're live every Friday night, 8:30 p.m. on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Facebook. Make sure you guys are following me across all social media platforms. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, it is Legend in 2 Games, completely spelled out. Shoot me a like, shoot me a comment. If there are topics you want to hear discussed on the show, don't hesitate, man. Send them over. We're active over there. And as well, make sure you tune into and subscribe to Real Fans, Real Talk. We normally go live every Sunday or Monday, especially now during football season. Sometimes if there's a significant Sunday night game, we will wait till Monday to go live before the Monday night football game. But make sure you're going to want to tune into Real Fans, Real Talk. Shout out to my brother, Trip Young. He's a Giant fan, so take it easy on him. It might be a tough year for him this year. But yeah, we got AFC and NFC West predictions coming up, as well as my picks for the Thursday night opening game in Kansas City and the Friday night game between the Packers and the Eagles. That's taking place, I believe, in Brazil. I'll double check that, but that's not even though Philly's listed as a home team, that's not in Philly. I believe that's an international game. I got to double check on that one. But yeah. So again, appreciate you guys. Continue to subscribe. Let's get to some of these other things I want to talk about right now. Let's start with the divisional predictions. If you haven't seen it in the past, I've gone through every division the last couple of weeks, giving you my predictions, and I'll give you some quick rundowns. In the AFC, I've got the Jets winning the AFC East. They've got the 4th easiest schedule. The defense is legit. Aaron Rodgers, I expect them to be healthy for at least 80% of the season, if not 100% of the season. They've got playmakers everywhere. Breece Hall probably was better last year than I thought he would be coming off the injury. Now you add Mike Williams as a big physical receiver to go with Garrett Wilson. I think the Jets are the real deal. I expect Buffalo to take a step back because of their lack of weapons. So I think the Jets win the division in the AFC East. I've got the Bengals winning in the North. But as I said earlier in the show, I don't have them significantly better than Baltimore. I just think they're going to take advantage of a very weak schedule. They're playing a 4th-place schedule, and the Bengals, talent-wise, are far greater than that. They're not a last-place team. Last year, injuries are really fucked up their season. So I think this year they'll be better. So I got the Bengals winning with the Ravens in 2nd place. In the East, I got the Dolphins in 2nd place, the Bills in 3rd place, Patriots in 4th place. In the North, I got the Bengals, Ravens, Pittsburgh, Browns. As I've said, I don't believe in Deshaun Watson and Cleveland. It is a very, very tricky situation. It has not looked good. I know last year when he was a starter, they did win some games. At one point, they were 5-1. They got some things rolling, but I just don't believe in what they were doing there. And then in the South, I got the Texans, the Colts, the Jaguars, and the Titans. And in the NFC, I got Philly, Dallas, Commanders, and Giants coming out the East. And in that order of the East, I've got Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago, and Minnesota in the North. And then in the South, I've got Atlanta, New Orleans, Tampa, and Carolina. We're going to do the West today. Shout out to my brother, Will Gordon. He is joining the live right now. We're going to get into our predictions for the AFC and NFC West, as well as our picks for the Thursday night game and the Friday game. Will, whenever you're ready, just give me a thumbs up. I'll bring you on the live. So, yeah, that's where we stand with those as well. And as I said, if you haven't tuned in the past, every Friday night, 8:30 p.m., go live. We break down every game of the week. We give you the 401k pick of the week. We give you the upset pick of the week. We do it like no other live is going to do it, to be honest with you. We're going down the whole slate. We give you our reasons for every game. The track record speaks for itself. You can look back to last year. It was another winning season. We were great on 401k pick of the week. I believe we were over 80% for last year. This year, week by week, I'm going to make sure I'm posting it on the live so you guys can see what the record has been with the 401k pick of the week, what the record has been with the Thursday night game of the week, and what the overall record is. Because last year, again, we were phenomenal last year with the 401k pick of the week. I can only think of about 3 games where the 401k pick of the week didn't hit. So overall, you should have been fine, man. Like I said, waiting for Will Gordon. Once he's ready, we're going to bring him on the live. While we wait to bring him on the live, though, let's go into, I'm going to start with the Thursday night game. Actually, no, I'll start with the division. And you guys will understand why I'm starting with the division once you see Will Gordon on the live. AFC West. Before we get into predictions, Will, like I said, give me the thumbs up once you're ready, bro. Once you're situated, let me know what's going on. Give me the thumbs up, and I'll bring you on the live. AFC West, couple things in the background just to know. The Kansas City Chiefs got the 12th easiest schedule in the NFL this upcoming season. The Chargers got the 2nd easiest schedule in the NFL this year. The Denver Broncos got the 5th toughest. The Las Vegas Raiders got the 9th toughest. So a couple things that stick out to me. First, I think the Chargers were better than a 5-win team last year. Justin Herbert gets hurt. Brandon Staley, terrible head coach. You got the Austin Eckler contract negotiations kind of hanging over that team. Mike Williams goes down. So there was a lot of things I think that affected the Chargers in their season. So the talent they still have there to still have the 2nd easiest schedule, I think will play in their favor. Will, let me know if you're ready, bro. All right, we're going to bring you on right now. Since I'm talking about the Chargers, I felt it was perfect time. My brother,
what you do, baby? What's up with you, dog?
What's good, bro? How's everything?
Man, I got out of work late. First, I thought the live was at 9. I didn't even get out of work till 8:50. Then I came to the job. I was like, oh, he already on? Let me.
Nah. I've been starting it a little earlier, just to give people opportunity with some of the questions that come through. But I'm gonna circle back to some of them as well because Ron flooded us with a bunch of joints. We also got a new viewer in here tonight. He's been giving us some good questions and comments, so I appreciate that.
What up, Ron?
Since we're talking about the Chargers, and we're talking about the West, I thought it was perfect time. Let's get to the AFC West. As I mentioned, Kansas City got the 12th easiest schedule. The Chargers got the 2nd easiest schedule. Broncos got the 5th toughest. Vegas has the 9th toughest. I know this as people can see with the backdrop that you have, this is personal for you in this division. Let's start off. What type of impact do you think Harbaugh will have on Jay Herbo and his team as a whole? Let's start there.
I think the first thing he's going to bring is professionalism. I feel like that's something we were lacking in the coaching area the last couple of years under Brandon Staley. I feel like he was kind of just happy to have the job, happy to be there, and didn't really do what was necessary to sustain success at an NFL level. I think Staley was a little too like a kid in a candy store when it came to, having the keys to a professional football team. He has a lot of maturing to do, and I think with Harbaugh, he's already been through all that. He's won everywhere that he's gone, and I feel like he'll bring a certain level of respect that should trickle down and kind of spread amongst the whole organization. Pause. And I think you'll see a very, very more professional active football team. But we still not winning the division, though.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. No, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Harbaugh in general, and I agree with you. That's why that was one of the things I highlighted. I think sometimes we got to separate what the season looked like last year in comparison to what you're going to this year, right? So Brandon Staley was a guy. You and I have been doing this live 4 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Brandon Staley's a guy who we talked about for several of those years in terms of being one of the worst head coaches in the league.
Yeah.
So you upgrade a head coach. Again, you had that cloud hanging over your head of the Austin Eckler contract, which you and I both knew the Chargers weren't going to give him new money.
Mm-hmm.
You're not giving that running back new money. And then Mike Williams goes out early in the season. Herbo deals with injuries very early in the season. And so everything kind of goes off the rails very quickly. I think this year, like you said, the level of professionalism comes in now. And Harbaugh just elevating the team as a head coach. A good head coach, I think, could win you 2 or 3 extra games just by coaching. So this isn't a team that has 5-win talent. They're better than a 5-win team.
Oh, yeah.
And so as long as Jay Herbo, we talked about the walking boot and the plantar fasciitis on the previous episode, as long as that doesn't linger, I think this team will be in a mix, not for the division, but potentially for a wild card spot. It gets tricky there, but I think they will be in a mix.
If we can get the running game going the way that Harbaugh wants to run the football and the way Greg Roman likes to orchestrate his offenses, I think you can see a lot of pressure being taken off Justin Herbert to have to do everything himself, and you'll see a more balanced attack as far as the run-pass game. I'm not really too worried about the defense. It's enough ballers over on that side of the ball to figure it out. But that running game is going to be very key because we've got guys that are pretty much taking off the scrap heap from Baltimore with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins, yeah.
And J.K. Dobbins is very talented, but he just can't stay on the field.
He can't stay healthy.
So we're gonna see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean Harbaugh immediately he wants it to be a more physical offensive presence. You draft the left tackle with your first pick, and then like I say, you bring in physical running backs from Baltimore. You already know what he wants to do. The question will become, do you have enough playmakers on the outside so that Justin Herbert can be who he is? Because for Josh Palmer, this is a major step up. He got to be the number 1 receiver when for years past he was 3 or 4 in the depth charts. Now you got to be number 1. You got the kid Ladd McConkey, who he got to be a number 2 right away. And that's a lot to ask for young guys who've never had to carry that type of pressure in an offense.
And when you bring up McConkey being possibly the number 2 guy, the Chargers, their lack of, in my eyes, wanting to improve the roster right now, that's the one part that I'm not really understanding. I get, getting rid of old contracts and stuff like that. But when you're not doing anything to supplement what you gave up, that's what I don't really get. Because, like, if you look at my receiver room, when you compare to every other receiver room in the league, it's trash.
I mean, shit, compared to the receiver room within your own division.
Yeah.
Like it's a major drop-off when you look at what the Chiefs, what the Raiders got in their receiver room. And like I said, you got Josh Palmer, who for years was the 3rd or 4th receiver, depending on how you view Jalen Guyton. That's where Josh Palmer fell. Now you're bringing in a rookie to be the number 2. It's like it's a lot of inexperience there for a team that has invested a lot of money in their quarterback. Normally, if you invest that type of money in your quarterback, you're going to get him weapons so that he can be successful.
That's why I'm surprised they didn't go get somebody that might have got cut from another team, or even some of these younger guys that are looking to grasp onto a team. I don't know how you look in that receiving room and you're like, all right, yep, let's get ready for week 1. We're straight.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I don't know how you see that in that room.
I agree. Let's get to our divisional predictions. Shout out to GZDR. I'm gonna get back to your last 2 comments in a minute. AFC West. Will, give me your breakdown, whether you want to go first to last or last to first. How do you see this division playing out?
AFC West, my division?
Yep.
Well, I think just get the Chiefs out the way. You know what I mean? They're going to win the division. Now, I know it's going to sound kind of homerish, but I'm not scared of Denver or Las Vegas. So I don't see why we can't be second in that division. We definitely have the next best quarterback in the division. I think we probably have, the Raiders' defense is pretty good, but I'm not scared of their defense lined up against man for man against what we offer on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm not scared of Gardner Minshew at all. So I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to finish second. I like the Raiders to finish third. And I think Bo Nix is going to struggle a little bit as a rookie, starting for the Broncos. So I see them finishing last. And I'm not sold on Sean Payton either as a head coach.
This is so. Out of the other episodes we've done in the divisions we predicted, this is the first time that you and I have completely agreed. Kansas City, to me, wins the division. Unless there's some sort of injury, you could pencil in Kansas City for 11 to 12 wins this year. We just know what it is. Best quarterback, probably the best head coach. They add a lot of speed at receiver now. They still got the great tight end. That defense, which was young 2 years ago when they won these backs, now that they won back-to-back, is now more experienced. Chris Jones might be the best defensive lineman in football. Kansas City's going to win 11 to 12 games.
Yep.
I agree with you. The Chargers as the second team in the division, and like I said, a potential wild card. As I said, they won 5 games last year, and they're way better than that. I think Harbaugh alone could get you 2 to 3 extra wins just with coaching.
Yeah. Just
with coaching. So if we're going to add that in the mix and say, all right, maybe they get to 8, maybe even 9 wins, now they're in the mix for that, 6th or 7th wild card spot as a 9-8 team. The health for Jay Herbo is the most important thing. And then that defense, though talented, you're relying on 2 older pass rushers with Khalil Mack and Bosa. Those guys got to stay productive for that defense to be really good as well. But after that, I think there's a major drop off. Vegas got the pass rush, and that's it, really. Devontae Adams is out there. They ain't got much of a running game. They ain't got much of an O-line. Gardner Minshew last year was helped out by everything that the Colts were able to put around him, and they were able to just let him be a game manager. But he's not a guy who could normally win you 9 games. And if you think he's going to go into your whole season, I just don't like that situation for them at all. I think Vegas may only win 5 or 6 games this year. I just don't like none of the talent there outside of Devontae Adams and Max Crosby and a couple guys they got on defense. And then Denver, as you mentioned, the worst quarterback situation, not only in the division, but it could be the worst quarterback situation in all of football. I mean, when your quarterback room is Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, and Zach Wilson, like what solutions are you turning to, Will? Yo, like, I don't understand this love for Bo Nix. I keep telling people, Bo Nix was in college so long, he played against Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert been in the league 4 years now. No, it's a fact. Bo Nix is a 26-year-old rookie. Like, if
he's 26, I didn't know that.
We could double check. I believe he's about 26. My point being, like, if this is a guy, like, now you're ready to be an NFL quarterback. I mean, he won the job because there wasn't much competition. Jarrett Stidham is a guy who he never won a job, and he was a backup in New England. He was a backup in Denver. We know what Zach Wilson was. We've seen what Zach Wilson was. We've seen what he was with the Jets. So if I'm the Broncos, you're limited at wide receiver. You ain't got much of an O-line. Their running back's coming back off injury. Sean Payton is fucked. Sean Payton he out there, he just taking the best guy he got available. But I don't think it's enough to be competitive in this division or in the AFC at all. They might only win about 5 or 6 games as well. They right in that same, I think, range with Vegas. Now their defense played well towards the second half of last year. Everybody talks about the 70 points that the Miami Dolphins put on them. But from that point on, their defense did play better. But their defense ain't good enough to carry them to be competitive. So you and I agree. Kansas City, Chargers, Vegas, Denver, that's the order we have it. Obviously, Kansas City winning the division and making the playoffs. Chargers with a potential wild card spot. What you about to say?
I forgot to mention the one big splash signing the Chargers had this week. The trade we made. I don't know if it came across your wire.
Who's that?
We got a new backup quarterback in Los Angeles.
Who's your backup quarterback now?
No, I can't write the stories, man. Taylor Heineke.
He's ironically, he is a Harbaugh type guy.
I can't shake this dude, man.
Yeah. for those that don't remember, you once had an allegiance to the DC football team, the Commanders, the Commandos, whatever you want to call them.
They get Eckler. You know what I'm saying? Austin Eckler's a Commander now.
Yeah.
Heineke's a Charger. Some kind of weird multiverse we living in, man.
It gets weird like that, right? Where sometimes when two teams have like these connection between players.
It's funny, man. I saw that. I thought it was like somebody was like, I had to see the source first. Like I making sure it was like NFL memes or something like that. It's like, damn, he really is. All right. He's a gamer.
I was about to say, I think you and I could agree though. If he got to start randomly throughout the season, you feel confident. It's when he has to start multiple games where you get scared. Mm-hmm. If he get a random start, like let's say it's a short week and it's like, oh, Herbo's a little banged up, so they're gonna start Heineke on a Thursday night game. All right, you could be confident in that. Yeah. Like you say, he's gonna play. But if it's like, oh, Herbo's out for the next 3 weeks, then it gets shaky.
Yep.
That's when it gets shaky. And also one of the backup quarterbacks you and I talked about in the past, it happened. Gerard Mayo finally said Jacoby Brissett's going to be the starter in New England.
Yeah, that was the right move. I think anybody that really was paying attention knew that was going to be the move from the beginning. That kid's just not ready. I actually watched the North Carolina game from last season. I think they were playing NC State. And NC State got up on them, and I was watching Drake May. I don't see what, just off that one game, I don't know what anybody saw in him to tout him highly. Just if I'm going off one game against a average ACC opponent, I saw nothing special at all from him, and I think it's going to be a long road for him.
It is, and he's a guy that I think a lot of scouts fell in love with the intangibles, and they fell in love with what he looked like in shorts and a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what I did. He was a guy all throughout college. They talked about he got they got big arm. He could make all the throws. But at 21 years old, I don't think mentally he is ready to be an NFL quarterback and everything that comes with that. The understanding of a playbook, the leadership that's required. There are a lot of guys who can throw a football. There's not a lot of guys who can command a huddle and make you feel like, all right, we're in good hands when this guy's our quarterback. And I just think he falls in that category.
Yeah. I think he's going to be one of those quarterbacks that, like, just like every other draft, a bunch of them fall off the face of the earth. I think he's going to be one of them.
Yeah. Let's get to the before we do the NFC West, let's do the Thursday night game that kicks off the season. Football is officially back. We're just inside of a week. Baltimore at Kansas City, rematch of the AFC Championship game in Kansas City. Right now, Baltimore is the underdog. They're getting 3 points in this game. Will, I know you picked the game outright. What do you like here?
I like Baltimore to win. Actually, I think the Chiefs are going to start the season 0-2 and then go on the tear.
Ooh, who's the Chiefs' second game? They got Cincinnati?
Yeah. I think it's at Cincinnati. for the second game.
Okay. So you got Baltimore going in and winning on ring night.
Yep. Yeah, I do. This is going to be the first look we get of this new Baltimore attack with Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And Kansas City notoriously starts out slow. I think Travis Kelce's going to look a little slow week one. I know that's kind of blasphemous to say, but Travis he's had a busy summer, and you know what I mean. He's been all over the place. He's been pretty much preoccupied all summer, so I think he might not be in the typical shape that he usually is in. Pair that with that Kansas City notoriously starts out slow, and Baltimore, they are like the quintessential regular season team. You know what I mean? And they still feel like they got a lot to prove. I know Lamar still feels like he doesn't get the credit that he deserves as a two-time MVP. National stage can ruin ring night. I just like Baltimore straight up in a high-scoring game. I could see it being like a 31-28 type situation or 34-31 type situation.
I agree with you. I'm taking just from the gambling aspect. Again, for the people that tuned in for the first time, we pick the games. I normally pick against the spread. Will gives me the outright winner. I like Baltimore +3 in this game. You look back at that AFC Championship game, I'm sure Baltimore looked at that tape and they really were like, man, we blew a fucking opportunity. With the turnovers in the red zone, the interception in the red zone, Zay Flowers fumbling at the goal line. Baltimore missed an opportunity to put up more points in that game and probably could have won that game. What they're going to do, as you said, is they're going to now lean into their running game and say, you know what, we're going to see if you man enough pause to handle our running game. Can you handle Derrick Henry for 25 carries and then the RPOs that come off that, the play action, the rollouts, all those type of things? I don't know if it turns into a shootout, but I do know that Baltimore's going to make this into a fight. This is going to be one of them where, you know, old school, high school football where you might fight in a parking lot because somebody's manhood got tested. This is going to be one of them type of games. Baltimore's going to come out and impose their will in this game. And I think at the very least, they cover the 3 points. I could see that maybe Harrison Butker makes a last second field goal and Kansas City wins, 24-21 or 23-21, something like that. But I like the 3 points for Baltimore here because I just think with that running game and with the vengeance they got to play with, the fact that this was the team they lost to in the AFC Championship game, and like you said, Lamar and them want to prove that we're on that same level as you. I expect Baltimore to jump out to a fast start and keep this game very close, if not even win this game.
Yeah, I like I said, I like Baltimore to win it, and I think Baltimore is going to be a team that's giving people fits all year. Not that they don't all the time anyway, but when you add Derrick Henry to that backfield, I don't care how old he is, because he's not normal. So let's, you know what I mean? We try to use normal stats against somebody that's abnormal. You know what I mean? I don't care if he's almost 30 or whatever his age is now. He's not like the rest of us. You know what I mean? So what do you do if you're a linebacker? What do you do? Like, who do you watch in this read option that they're going to be running? Who, like, you're going to be a step and a half behind every play now, because that's how much emphasis you have to put on each one of those guys in Lamar and Derrick Henry. If pick your poison was a football team, it's this.
Yeah. This is I think a great spot for the Ravens to kind of show again that they are one of the elite teams. And we talked about it at the moment, and I still think if you're the Ravens, you got to feel like you blew an opportunity. The Chiefs were very beatable in an AFC Championship game. And Baltimore went away from who they are. They were a running team. And for whatever reason, they tried to turn into a finesse team in the AFC Championship game and throw the ball around, and it didn't work in their favor. And even with that, like I said, they had 2 opportunities in the red zone where they turned the ball over. They lose the game 17-10. If they come out with a touchdown on one of those possessions, that fourth quarter is completely different. So
they got way too cute.
Yeah, they got too cute. So I think now they start off the game right off the bat and say, no, you know what? Let's see if you can stop our running game. And if you can't stop our running game, it's going to be a long night for Kansas City defense, and we're going to keep y'all on the field, keep Mahomes off the field, and then again, Henry 25 carries. You might see Lamar with another 8 to 10 carries on scrambles. You might see this might be a big game for the tight ends as well for Likely and Andrews, because like I said, they're going to do a lot of 2 tight end set and a lot of play action, a lot of stretch plays, a lot of different things to make Kansas City's defense adjust to their running game. I agree with you. I like Baltimore at least +3, if not to win. You want to do the Friday game, or you want to get over to the NFC West?
Go ahead and get the game on the way.
Let's do the Friday game. I believe this game is in Brazil.
The Jets and the
No. This the Friday game. The Packers and the Eagles.
Oh yeah, I knew it was green teams. I couldn't think of what the green teams it was.
Hold on. Shout out to GZDR forever. He said, "What's the odds of Taylor Swift showing up?" I think it's 100%. It's opening night. It's ring ceremony.
Oh yeah,
it's ring ceremony. She's gonna be there.
You're gonna see more shots of her than you will of Coach Reed.
Yeah, I mean, she's gonna be there for sure. They getting their rings that night. I highly doubt she misses that opportunity and that publicity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Packers at Eagles is the way it's listed, but I believe this is the game in Brazil on Friday night. This is the Peacock game. Who do you have winning this game? How do you see it playing out?
I like Philly in this one. I think adding Saquon Barkley to that team is pretty much stamping them to the NFC Championship. Because he's a guy that's got a lot left in the tank, and this is the first time he's actually been around a competent offense around him, where he's not the other team's defense is playing A, B, C, D, and E on who we have to stop. He's never had that in his career. He's still been effective when he's on the field. I think he could take away a lot of the load that Jalen Hurts takes on when he runs the football as much as he does. I think that'll take some wear and tear off of Jalen Hurts' body. And I think that with the receivers they have, and when you add a guy like Saquon who can catch out of the backfield as well, when you add a young receiver in Jahan Dotson from Washington, Washington gave up on after just 2 seasons. He's still young. When you did lose a little bit on the offensive line, but I still think they've got enough to, you're not going to replace Jason Kelce. He was an anchor for that line for many, many years, first ballot Hall of Famer. But I don't think the drop-off is going to be that large to where it's glaring and noticeable. So, don't get me wrong. I like what Green Bay is putting together. But I don't see them having enough quite yet to take on this Eagles team. I think the Eagles are going to come out fast. I think they're going to come out hitting on all cylinders, and I like them in this game.
I was starting to get a little worried, Will, because up until this point, you and I were agreeing on everything. But this is the one we don't agree on.
Okay.
I like Philly for the season. I like them to win the division. I think they're an 11-win team, and they're going to be in Super Bowl contention. But this is one of the games that scares me for Philadelphia, because I think their secondary is weak, and I think their secondary has gotten old. And we saw it towards the end of last season. They gave up a lot of big plays in the passing game. And this lines up perfectly for the Packers, who towards the end of last season and into the playoffs, you saw what Jordan Love was able to do. They love to air it out with all those young receivers, with Roby O'Donnell, with Christian Watson, with Dontavian Wicks. They got a lot of guys that they can throw the ball to down the field. And now that they add Josh Jacobs, who I think adds a little bit more of a physical element to their running game. No disrespect to Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, I think, was more of a finesse guy. Josh Jacobs gives them a little bit more physicality. Now, I think Green Bay's offense is really, really good. And I think they're going to give that secondary fits. They're getting 3 points. From the gambling aspect, I would take the 3 points because I think they can outright win, but to play safe, take the 3. But I like Green Bay in this game, especially if it's a neutral site game, because it's not like they got to deal with the environment of Philadelphia. It's almost like them playing, a high school game on a with no home field advantage type, where it's like it's just your offense against my offense, defense, and may the best man win. And I just think their receiving core is going to give that Philadelphia secondary a lot of fits in this game. I don't know. You let me. How do you feel about Darius Slay and James Bradbury at this point? Because I think them dudes are kind of getting old and lost a step.
Well, that's why they spent their first 2 picks in the draft on corners.
Yeah, but I don't think them young corners is not playing in this game right away. Not as starters. They'll get played, but they're not going to see more than 15 snaps, 20 snaps.
I don't know. I think they're going to be fine in the secondary. Yeah, I think they'll be fine, man, to be honest with you, especially when I look at that front 4. I think they can give enough pressure to bail out the secondary and make throws come out a lot faster, which will in turn be kind of like a second defender in the secondary when you get the quarterback to make decisions a lot faster than he wants to. I think they'll be fine.
Okay. That's the first one, like I said, that we've disagreed on. We agreed on the AFC West. We agreed on the Thursday night game. That's the game I think is going to be a shootout. I think Philadelphia's offense will have their moments. I think Green Bay's offense will have their moments as well. That's the game I'm looking forward to, because I think that Friday night game, I wouldn't be surprised if both teams get in the 30s in that one, because that's going to be a shootout. Before we get over to the NFC West, as always, I want to remind you guys, make sure you subscribe to the Sanchez Show. We are live every Friday night. We are the opinionated ones. Will Gordon and myself, we are the opinionated ones on Friday night as part of the Sanchez Show. All right. We're starting the shows every Friday at 8:30. We go over every game of the week. We answer all your questions or your comments. Make sure you shoot us a like, shoot us a comment. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You see our names right there, our social media handles right there. Make sure you're following us. Will's over on Facebook and IG. I'm on Facebook, IG, Twitch, and Twitter, and TikTok, and all other bullshit that I got signed up for that I probably don't even really use that much. Also, shout out to my brother Trip Young. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Real Fans, Real Talk. We will be live this Sunday as well as we recap this week in sports and get ready for the kickoff season. Will, I need you to sign up for the league, bro.
I did.
All right, bet.
I signed up yesterday.
Bet. All right, let's get to the NFC West. Let's finish off with the NFC West, and then I think we got like 2 more comments in the comment section that we're going to get to before we wrap up tonight. But NFC West, whichever order you want to go, first to worst, worst to first, you let me know.
Let's go worst to first. I'm going to go ahead and say, which might be a surprise to some people, but I think the cellar dweller this year in the AFC West is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I know Geno Smith is coming off a couple of decent seasons, but I don't know, man. I still can't forget who Geno Smith has always been. I mean, maybe he's a late bloomer, but to me, he's just still Geno Smith. And Pete Carroll, I think, is losing his fastball as a head coach. I do still like the outside threats in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. It seems like no matter who they have in their backfield, somebody gets hurt all the time. Now, Kenneth Walker has been decent for him, but I don't think anybody's losing sleep over him. And I just don't think the defense is nearly what it has been, especially with them losing their anchor and Bobby Wagner. I just don't think the Seahawks are as good as advertised, and I think everybody else in the division got a little bit better where they didn't. So I've got Seattle finishing last.
Okay. Now, you saying that, right? You said people may not agree. It's funny. I have it written down. I'm gonna try to cover up everybody else I got. If you can see it, I had Seattle as last as well.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree. Pete Carroll's out of there. You say he's losing his fat ball? Yeah, he is, because he ain't out there no more. But he was losing it last year as well.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but I agree with the Geno comment, and that's why I picked him last. When I looked at this division, I looked at the other quarterbacks. No matter how you feel about Brock Purdy's showing he's a winner. So and then the rest of the talent on San Fran is too strong. So I wouldn't expect them to have a major drop off. But if we're ranking quarterbacks, you got a healthy Kyler Murray in Arizona now with Marvin Harrison Jr. I like that situation. I like the Rams situation with Stafford and Puka and Cup. They got another young guy that they drafted now that was tearing up preseason that they think could be their third guy. And then they also got Robinson as a running back. I mean, Williams as a running back. So in terms of teams, I like some of the pieces on Seattle, but you're right. The defense struggled last year. I don't think that gets much better this year. Kenneth Walker had that great rookie season and he fell off. And then Geno. Like, what Geno are we getting? Because historically, Geno's only given us one quality season. That's it. And if Geno is going to be who he's been for most of his career, I don't see how we can show any faith in his team. I know they won 9 games last year. They might be able to get back to that range again, but even still, the odds I think are stronger that they're probably more like a 6 or 7 win team as opposed to a 9 or 10 win team. So I agree with you. I got them in 4th place as well. Who you got in 3rd place?
In 3rd place, I'm gonna go with the Cardinals. I like that they got Marvin Harrison Jr. to give Kyler Murray, to me, the best receiver in the draft. And he's a starter day one. He's been a pro for a year and a half already. But I don't know if I can trust Kyler Murray's health for him to stay upright for a complete season. And my lack of trust in his health is probably the main reason I've got them finishing second to last. Also, I'm not really impressed with their running back room. And when you've got teams like the 49ers in your division, you've got teams like the Rams in your division, that's not a cakewalk. And I just don't think I think in a year or two, add a couple more pieces, I think you might have something going, but I just don't think they're ready yet. I'm going to let Marvin Harrison get a year of true professional football under his belt and a year of him playing with Kyler. But I think they're going to have some growing pains right now, so I've got them finishing 3rd.
I do too. And I think this division is, we're going to agree on how it's shaping up. I got them finishing 3rd. But here's the thing I want to add about them. I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to be very sneaky this year. And honestly, I think they're going to be a pain in the ass for most of the year. Kyler Murray running around with the ability to throw the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals are in the mix for most of the season. Now, I got them finishing 3rd because I think the 2 teams ahead of them are just more complete teams. But Kyler Murray and them are better than the last place team. And so I think Kyler and Marvin Harrison, they're going to score a lot of fantasy points for anybody who drafts them. I think they're going to be a great red zone team because you're going to see a lot of highlights from those 2 guys. And I think they're going to be competitive most of the season. They just happen to be a 3rd place team because I think the 2 teams ahead of them are veteran-laden teams with better head coaching and better talent. If the Arizona Cardinals were, let's say, in the NFC South, I think they would be a playoff team. Like if they were in the division with the Falcons and the Panthers and the Saints, they would be a playoff team. But because they're in this division, they're a 3rd place team. So I agree with you there as well. I think it's shaping up the way we both think it will be.
I'm looking at the Cardinals' schedule. It's not that easy. I mean, you've got, I guess it has its little pockets here and there that look like they could be pretty easy. But they start out with, cross country at Buffalo, which Buffalo's falling off of.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I know when we get together next Friday, we're gonna do the Friday Night Live and we're gonna pick all the games. Arizona right now is my upset pick of the week for week 1.
Ooh.
I'm gonna tell you right now. Buffalo, my opinion might change in a week if something changes in the injury reports or something we hear. I think Buffalo is primed for a couple losses early in the season. Josh Allen, as a veteran quarterback with inexperienced receivers, we've seen how that plays out before, Will, where quarterbacks get frustrated because guys don't know how to run a route against certain coverages. They don't know how to find a spot in the zone. And then more importantly, Buffalo has struggled to get pressure on the quarterback for years now. They haven't been able. That's why they went and got Von Miller a couple years ago. That's why they've drafted so many defensive linemen over the last few years. They can't get pressure on the quarterback. And I feel like that's a prime Kyler Murray spot. Yeah, you're going into Buffalo, but it's early season Buffalo. Ain't no weather impact there. So Kyler Murray, before you know, he start running around. Next thing you know, he's on the red zone channel because he done thrown 3 touchdowns, and Arizona's up 24-17 heading into the fourth. So I like Arizona week 1.
What's the line? Do you know?
I can double check. Week 1, Arizona at Buffalo. Buffalo's favored by 6.
Oh wow, that's pretty disrespectful.
I'm gonna tell you right now, the two lines that caught my attention right away, as far as underdog teams, and we'll get more into this next week. But Buffalo favored by 6 in that game against Arizona, and Atlanta favored by 3 over Pittsburgh. Those are the two, because I think that's a lot of respect for our Atlanta team that, one, hasn't done anything, and 2, we don't even know what Kirk Cousins we getting. Kirk Cousins took a significant injury last year. That Pittsburgh defense is healthy. That's with T.J. Watt and with Cameron Hayward and Ryan and Minka Fitzpatrick. That's a good defense.
The Steelers have a top 5 defense.
Yeah. Those are the two that stuck out the most to be like, okay, we're going to keep an eye on those and see how that line shifts the next few weeks. But to the point we were making about the Cardinals, I think it's not the easiest schedule. I think in terms of strength of schedule, it's like middle of the pack. It's like 16th. So really it's right in the middle of the league. I just think overall, with the amount of time Kyler Murray missed last year, this team probably would have won 2 more games last year, and we would have looked at them a little different. They end up winning 5 games because Kyler missed so much time. Now you get Kyler back, and you get a legitimate number 1 receiver. This could be a team that could get to 8 wins. It's possible for them. So that's why I agree with you in terms of they're going to be a third-place team. I like them more than Seattle just because I think there's a little bit more there, especially at the quarterback position. There's more there. What do you got as the second-place team? We probably agree here, but what do you got there?
I'm going LA for second place. Only because I like LA's team on both sides of the ball, but I like the 49ers a little bit better, especially with Ayuk finally getting signed, and they can finally get that settled down and get him back into the swing of things. I don't expect them to really fall off at all. I expect them to actually get better. And for that reason alone, I just don't think now, don't get me wrong, I like a lot about what the Rams do. I like their quarterback. They've got the young running back in Williams. They've got dogs at receiver. They've got a defense that's not scared to get dirty. Now, it's going to be weird seeing them without Aaron Donald in the middle of that defense. So we're going to see how much of an impact he really did have and how much better he made that defense look. But I just don't think they're better than the 49ers. So for that simple fact, I've got them finishing second.
I agree with pretty much everything you said, bro. I think offensively, I think they're right there with the 49ers. Now, the 49ers got more star power because you're talking McCaffrey and Kittle and Debo. But Kupp and Puka Nacua and the running back Williams and Matthew Stafford, the Rams got a lot of weapons on offense. I think every one of their games is probably going to be a shootout this year. My concern with them is their defense. You lose Aaron Donald, you don't have that same type of leadership. They just had to trade that linebacker who they can't work out the extension for. So they got some things going on in their defense that I would like to see fixed. Also, it's a change at defensive coordinator. Raheem Morris, who's the defensive coordinator, took the job in Atlanta. So there's a lot of uncertainty with that defense that would stop me from thinking that they can compete with the 49ers for the division. But I do think they're a playoff team as they were last year. It'll be great to see them against the Lions again, which to me was one of the better playoff games from last season to see how they match up this year. But the Rams are a good team. I think the Rams are a good team. It's just a matter of you're in a division with a really, really good team in the San Francisco 49ers. But they got a great head coach. They got good pieces on offense. They got enough to win 9 to 10 games and be a wild card team and be in the mix. And there's going to be points this year where we're going to wonder if they can really test the 49ers for the division. And if the Niners aren't correct, right, because McCaffrey's dealing with an injury, if the Niners for whatever reason aren't, have a little bit of Super Bowl hangover, the Rams could win the division. The Rams are close enough where they could take advantage of any missteps out of 49ers. So I like the Rams as well. I think we got the divisions playing out the same. San Fran winning the division, making the playoffs, obviously. Rams as a wild card team, second place, and then the Cardinals and Seahawks. So we agree there.
Now, so we both got the 49ers as the number one team.
Yes.
Would you agree with me that Brock Purdy has the most pressure on him of any player in the division?
In the division? Yeah, in the division, that's fair to say. Because, I mean, in terms of quarterbacks, Kyler Murray, there's no pressure there. Geno's no pressure there. Matthew Stafford has won his Super Bowl. There's no pressure there. The pressure's on Brock Purdy to duplicate the success that he's had not only last year but the year before. GZDR have mentioned earlier about Brock Purdy, looking at some of these quarterback signings and getting excited. And I agree. Brock Purdy has shown he can win. I don't think he's shown he can lead because we saw last year when Debo was out and they struggled, he struggled as the leader. But if you give him the pieces, I think he can win. And I think the pressure's on him to just have a solid season. He doesn't have to have an MVP season. He doesn't have to be great. He just has to be solid because the 49ers have enough pieces around him.
Do you think solid is enough when he's going to be due to get paid?
I think solid is enough because realistically, he saved John Lynch. He saved his job. I don't think enough people talk about the fact that John Lynch completely fucked up by trading up to try to get Trey Lance. And they missed that. They bombed on that completely. And if Brock Purdy had never turned into this quarterback, this whole situation in San Fran would have been fucked because Trey Lance was supposed to be the future. They traded up for Trey Lance, and he was supposed to be the guy. And then within 2 years, they're trading him away and also letting go of Jimmy G. Now, Jimmy G, we know where he's at this point. But at the time when they drafted up for Trey Lance, we all wondered, like, is this the right move to make right now? Because your team is close enough to winning a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy saved their job. If Brock Purdy wasn't their quarterback, they would have been out there with Sam Darnold right now.
Yeah.
So I think there's pressure on him to produce and duplicate. Again, you were just in the Super Bowl, so you got to produce. But I don't think there's pressure on him to like prove much to that front office. I think that front office knows he's our quarterback. And if you don't like Brock Purdy, what are the options?
But the way I'm looking at it is because you got to pay him.
Yeah.
And are you going to? And the market bears is not like if let's say you go to the playoffs again, don't win the Super Bowl or don't make it to the Super Bowl, and Purdy is just solid and isn't making throws that like wow throws or being the reason that they win the game, not necessarily the reason they lose, but not being the reason they win either. Are you ready to give market money to a guy that's just at that point you may have to label as just a system quarterback?
It's very possible that he is a system quarterback. We saw some of that last year when they struggled again in the middle of that season when they lost like 3 in a row. They went from 5-0 to 5-3 when Debo was out. So you could make the case that he is a system quarterback. My counter to that would be, what are your alternatives? Because the game-changing quarterbacks aren't going to be available, right? Mahomes, Burrow, Jackson, Allen, Hurts, even if you want to throw Tua, Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, the young quarterbacks who can make a difference aren't going to be available. So then what you're left with is, all right, well, maybe if Dallas doesn't sign Dak, is Dak an upgrade over Brock Purdy?
Yes.
All right. So maybe Dak, but even still, you're looking at a guy you're going to have to pay a lot of money to be your quarterback. Either way, they're in the same position. If we're
Well,
paying,
yeah, but you'll pay more for Benz. You won't pay the same price for a Benz that you will a Camry.
well, what I would like to know is how they view Dak Prescott, because they faced him in the playoffs a couple times already. So they would have a really clear understanding of like, hey, Dak is really good and we just game planned well enough to slow him down. Or, hey, Dak has a lot of deficiencies that we were able to exploit. That's where it gets really like interesting in terms of how they would view Dak, because they've game planned to play against him multiple times over the last few years, and they had to beat him in the playoffs a couple times. So if they feel like Dak is a really, really good quarterback and we had to execute at a high level to beat him, then yeah, Dak's your guy. But if they felt like, nah, Dak wasn't that difficult to game plan against, it's just a couple things you got to take away, then they may view Dak as like, no, you're not the alternative. Because if we're going to pay you big money, we might as well pay the guy who already knows our system and who's already here.
So who would you comp Brock Purdy to in the NFL?
Who's his comp?
Yeah.
It's tough to make a comp because he's only been in the league 2 years. I do think he's a system quarterback. I agree with you on that. I think that if you put him on a team that had maybe just one or two weapons, he's probably average, if not maybe even below average.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it gets tricky because they got 2 all-pro receivers. They got an all-pro tight end. They got an all-pro running back. And they got a great offensive line with an all-pro left tackle. So I don't think there's ever been a quarterback this early in his career that's had this much help.
Yeah.
That's where it gets really, really tough. To make a player comp, if we're gonna say he's a system quarterback, maybe he is Kirk Cousins. Like maybe he's a poor man's Kirk Cousins right now. Maybe he's like an early Drew Brees right now. I don't know who to compare him to because he has so much help.
Yeah.
There's no other quarterback that's had this much help this early. And one of the statements I made earlier in the live is with the 49ers is going to get tricky because Ayuk got his new deal. Now somebody's got to be the odd man out for Brock Purdy to get his deal. Whether it's Kittle, whether it's Debo, whether it's somebody on that defense, somebody is going to have to take a significant restructure, pay cut, or possibly get traded because we know you can't keep all of this talent and pay your quarterback. That's not the way it works.
I think it would definitely be Kittle, man. They don't really utilize him the way they should anyway. And they can get other guys in his spot to do what they ask him to do because they use him to block, it seems like, more than anything else.
They love his blocking. When the matchup presents itself against teams that have weak linebacker cores, then they use him more in the route running. Kittle is very tough to replace because he's one of the few guys that can do both, that he can be effective as a blocker and as a pass catcher. But I do agree. To me, I think he would be the odd man out because I just think Debo's versatility makes them a special team. And you saw that last year. Like when Debo was out, they looked like a completely different team than when Debo was in the game. He makes his ability to line up everywhere on the field, in the backfield, out wide, in the slot, his ability to block, and he's younger than George Kittle. I just don't think he would be the odd man out.
And there were games when you didn't even know if Kittle was suiting up because you didn't hear his name the whole game.
Yeah, there's games that Kittle may only have 2 catches all game. So you can take Kittle's money and find you another, rugged tight end who can block and who can pass catch. You can find other guys like that. Again, Baltimore has 2 of them right now with Andrews and Isaiah Likely.
Yep.
You saw when Detroit traded TJ Hockenson. Like there's guys you can find in that role that are making less money than George Kittle. So I would think it's George Kittle because I don't think it's McCaffrey. I don't think McCaffrey's the odd man out. And I don't think Debo's the odd man out because even I don't know if you saw the receiver series. When you hear the way Kyle Shanahan talks about Debo, he talks about Debo as like he's our ultimate weapon. Debo allows us to call every play in our playbook because we know wherever Debo lines up, he is a threat. When they don't have Debo, they don't have that ultimate guy who can make their offense really go. Because again, if Debo lines up in the backfield, how do you defend that? You damn sure ain't leaving no linebacker on him in space.
Yep.
Right. And then when they able to do that, they able to motion McCaffrey out, and he could be a receiver and all these different things. With Kittle, as great as he is, you know what Kittle is. He's a tight end. You could find other tight ends who can do similar things to George Kittle, especially at this age. George Kittle, I think now is already 30 years old. So you can find other guys.
He's a beast, though. I take him on my team any day.
Of course. I think George Kittle is a phenomenal player. And I think if the 49ers decided to part ways with him, they would have plenty of teams calling to see what it's going to take. But for the 49ers, if you're going to give Brock Purdy his money, I think you give Brock Purdy his money with the thinking of he's still going to have McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, Trent Williams as the left tackle, and he'll have all those other pieces. And you saw, like, look how Lynch viewed Brandon Ayuk, because when the reports came out that the Commanders wanted him, John Lynch said, all right, we want draft picks and we want Terry McLaurin. We're not just giving Brandon Ayuk up for anybody. So if that's how he viewed Brandon Ayuk, how do you think he views Debo?
Yeah. Debo got his money, though, right?
Yeah, Debo got his money. So I think George Kittle might be the odd man out, unless Trent Williams maybe reworks his deal. Maybe somebody on the defensive side reworks their deal, but George Kittle might be the odd man out. Will, we got a couple questions, a couple statements that we're going to go through before we wrap up. First one is Charger related. I'm gonna switch it up here. He said, would you have liked to see Harbaugh bring in someone like Belichick to coach the defense? I don't think Belichick would have coached the defense, but I think what he's trying to say is a veteran presence to coach the defense. Would you have liked to see that?
It wouldn't have moved me, because I see so many old defensive coaches go places, and at this point, them being more so names than being effective, because they can't call or run defenses the way they used to with the way the game's played now. So I'm more into getting the younger, brighter minds in there than the old codgers, because it's just a different sport on that side of the ball now. And yeah, I didn't really need an older, like, definitely didn't need Belichick, but I'd rather give some younger guys with fresh eyes an opportunity, because with Jim there, I think he's old enough for me. I wouldn't mind if every other coach on the staff was younger than Jim, as long as it's guys just making strides on progressing in their craft and in their field. But I'm not a retread guy. I didn't really need a older guy coming in coaching the defense. And I've seen that all over the league. You'll see older guys get spots, and it's usually because they keep getting jobs because of the good old boy network and their relationships. And they don't even really deserve to even be in football. So I'm gonna just sit back, see what Jim's cooking. And if the food don't taste good, then I'm sending it back. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna go ahead and let them cook.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this. I mean, in terms, it wouldn't have been Belichick, because there's no way Belichick would have taken that position as the defensive coordinator. Belichick, his resume speaks for itself. Like, if you weren't going to hire me as the head coach, you're not going to hire me. I'm not going to come in and be somebody's defensive coordinator. But I do agree. As Harbaugh's first year as a head coach, I don't think you need a strong, like, overbearing personality to coach the defense. You kind of want to get your fingerprints on the team and create the identity that you want. And I think younger guys are better fit, because Harbaugh is a proven winner. He doesn't need, like, the validation of, like, oh, look who's on his staff. Everywhere Harbaugh has gone, he's been a winner. When he was at Stanford, he turned that around real quick and turned him into a winner. When he was at San Fran, he turned that into a winner. When he went to Michigan, he turned that into a winner. So I don't think he needs any validation from his defensive coordinator to say, oh, look who's on his staff. It's more about what Harbaugh brings to the table and what he's implementing and what identity he's trying to create with the Chargers. So I agree, he didn't need that. This one, and then we're going to go to our final thoughts. And this one, I think he was gearing it towards me, but we both could get to this one. I predicted the Bengals would take the division. Yes, I did. But that Jamar Chase contract is still up in the air. They play the Pats game 1, but if he doesn't sign game 2, they play the Chiefs. Well, Will thinks that the Bengals can win that game against Kansas City. I think the Bengals are going to beat the Patriots, and I think they could beat the Chiefs. It's already been talked about that Jamar will play week 1. And as I've said, to start the live, yeah, the contract talk is still in a lot of headlines, but I think one part that gets overlooked is he got 2 years left on that deal. Jamar Chase is not sitting out. And if anybody's giving him the advice to sit out, that's foolish advice. He will play. They will go back to the table and talk about this contract. He's not wrong for wanting a contract. I just think he doesn't have the leverage. Those are two different things. He doesn't have leverage right now because he still has 2 years left on that deal. His best bet is to go out, perform at a Pro Bowl level, which we know he can, and then circle back next offseason and then try to top Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb's number. But overall, the Bengals will work that out, and I think Jamar Chase will be on the field for both those games. But go ahead, Will.
I think the Bengals are going to be a lot better than people are giving them credit. Now, that doesn't mean I think they're going to win the division, because they're not. That division is probably the toughest in the league, I think. But if Joe Burrow is healthy, we gotta remember how good he is. Like, out of sight, out of mind. But Joe Burrow's one of them ones. So he as long as he's healthy, they're gonna have a shot. And what was it? They played week 2.
They got
the Chiefs.
Kansas City. Kansas City week 2.
They're gonna beat the Chiefs in week 2. I'm not making it my what's our lock? Our
401k.
Yeah, it's not gonna be my 401k pick of the week or anything, but I'm not gonna be sitting here shocked if the Bengals beat the Chiefs. I just they got a good football team.
I think the Bengals have a really, really good football team. What you said, out of sight, out of mind, I think plays a major factor. Because Burrow was injured last year and they missed the playoffs, people forget how good this team was. But if you look at their 2 seasons prior to that, they went to the Super Bowl, they were in the AFC Championship game. This team is really, really good. And as long as they're healthy, I think they're going to be really, really good again. And that's why I like them to win the division, and I like them to be competitive all throughout the season. When we get to the Chiefs games, we'll see. But in terms of the Patriots, I do expect them to put on a show against the Patriots. That might be the 401k pick of the week for week 1. We'll have to wait till next week. Before we
I might fade the Patriots all season.
I'm gonna save that statement for next week, because I got about 3 teams that I think we could fade all year. That if we fade it right, the vacation money will just bank up. Will we might be saying 1, 2, 3 Cancun come January. Like we done faded.
Do a show live from the beach.
Yeah. But before we
that'd be wild. We do a show live from the beach and see like other we see pro athletes that got knocked out of the playoffs walking around.
I'm telling you, it'll be ill because we'll call that segment 1, 2, 3 Cancun.
Yeah.
Let's give me a final thought before we wrap up.
For something we don't usually talk about here, but I'm kind of intrigued by this season's the kickoff of college football. I know your college football purists hate the playoff system and the way they're expanding and all, but that's one of the things that kept me away from college football, was that they didn't have playoffs. Because I was never for a bunch of dudes getting in a room and voting on who should compete for national championships. I'd rather see it played out on the field. And what is it now, 12-team playoff?
They went to a 12-team this year.
Yeah, I kind of like that. And every year I say I'm going to try to get more into college football. This year I'm halfway serious when I say I'm trying to get into college football, starting with this weekend. My Terps are going to have a nice little squad, according to what I'm reading, because I haven't seen them on the field yet. But I'm kind of excited to see college football this year, and what this crop is going to be bringing to the big boy league next year in the NFL. So let's see some of these young kids go out there and go after their dreams this weekend.
I am too. I think this is going to be a very exciting season of college football, as you mentioned, because of the expanded playoffs. I think in the past, like when we saw Florida State lose last week to Georgia Tech,
season would have been over.
Yeah, season would have been over. And now we realize, all right, they were the number 10 seed. They lose a neutral site game overseas, but there's a lot of season left. And I think that's the way it needs to play out, because too often college football, we're dictating the playoffs based off the first 2 weeks of the season. And that's not realistic. And every other sport, who you are the first 2 weeks of the season is not who you are by the end of the season. So I think it will make it very, very interesting. I'm interested, honestly, for this season to see what Colorado does, because Coach Prime and them started off hot last year and then they faded down the stretch. We know they got two guys that are projected to be top 10 picks. So I'm interested to see what they do this year.
Boy, did they look like it last night.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, did they look like it.
As I said, the issue with Colorado, shout out to Ron, because it was one of the questions he posed. The issue I got with Colorado isn't with Shedeur or Travis Hunter. It's with that O-line, it's with all the other pieces. But Shedeur is going to make the case to be the first quarterback drafted. And Travis Hunter, I don't know what the league going to do with him, because he playing so many snaps at both sides. Like, when he gets to the next level, is he a receiver? Is he a cornerback?
I think he's going to be used at receiver.
I agree. I think there's more potential there at receiver for him.
Yeah.
It's too tough at this point, bro. Like, there's no way you can't make him a receiver. You see his production already at the college level.
And I said it before. I don't know if it was on one of our previous broadcasts or in the comment section with you and Tripp. Shedeur Sanders is going to be the Giants' starting quarterback next year.
Early mock drafts have him going number 8 to the Giants.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Early mock projections have Shedeur going 8th to the Giants, and they have Travis Hunter going 10th to the Commanders.
I've got Shedeur going 1 to the Giants, because that's what they're going to be picking.
Well, I don't want to kind of spoil it, because it leads to the point I said that there's 3 teams I think this year that we could fade all year and make a lot of money, and we'll talk about that next week.
Okay.
Right now, the early projections got the quarterback. Not even, they got the D lineman from Tennessee going first. Early projections. So
I don't even know who that is. That's what I'm saying. I need to start paying more attention to college.
I mean, listen, as the season goes on, because at the start of last year, nobody had Jaden Daniels going number 2 in the draft. And then this how those things play out. You let the season play out. You see the success. You see how they fare against top-notch competition. And then, that'll dictate the board at that point. But I do think that Shedeur and Travis Hunter are legitimate top 10 picks. And they will be studs at the next level. I think both those guys are going to have a very great pro football career at the next level, because you can just see it. They game changers right now. Shedeur is to me taking a beating against competition he should not be getting hit against. North Dakota State should not be putting the amount of hits on Shedeur that they did yesterday.
Yeah, they did.
But the fact that he's, again, you can see his maturity level as a quarterback, him standing in the pocket, he's not shying away from the the physicality. He understands this what comes with the job, and he's still delivering. He's still throwing darts out there. So I think he's going to be great at the next level as well.
Shedeur Sanders right now is better than what's that quarterback we were talking about that they moved up for in San Francisco?
Trey Lance?
He's better than Trey Lance today.
Okay. I'm willing to say right now, if you had to rank Shedeur against every NFL quarterback, he better than Bo Nix.
Yep.
He better than Daniel Jones.
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure, better than Daniel Jones.
He better than Sam Darnold.
Yep. Gardner Minshew.
I would put him above Gardner Minshew. I think he's better than Will Levis.
Yep.
So we just named 4 quarterbacks right now that Shedeur is better than.
And he's gonna get better over the season.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's gonna get better over the season, and then he's probably better than Drake May right now too.
Oh yeah, definitely better than May.
So again, we just named 5.
He might start in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean, if it came down to the last preseason game between Fields and Russ, if that was a competition to the last preseason game, then he has a chance to start there too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He could start on probably 5 or 6 NFL teams right now. So,
can you imagine? So I know it's supposed to be final thoughts, but could you imagine let's say Pittsburgh finally doesn't make the playoffs and has a top 10 draft pick. The quarterback room in Pittsburgh right now is making like $3.5 million total.
Yeah, right.
They could get rid of both those quarterbacks, and then go get Shador to play on a rookie contract and still have all that cap space to spend on other positions.
I got an interesting one for you, and maybe we got to pick this combo up next week. If you're the Carolina Panthers and you got the opportunity to draft Shador, do you take Shador or do you give Bryce Young another chance?
I'm probably taking Shador.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason I brought up, I don't think Bryce Young can have a successful NFL career.
It's too late.
Not just that it's too late.
You don't think he's been damaged?
I think he's been damaged, but I just think physically there's no history of that type of guy being successful at quarterback.
Mm-hmm. He out there looking like Ish Smith.
I mean,
with a helmet on.
Yeah, like because I mean, at Alabama you could do it when you're surrounded by 15 other pros. It's different when you're at Carolina and it's like we ain't got receivers, we ain't got running back, we ain't got O-line, we ain't got nothing on defense, and now you're supposed to be the quarterback of this. And I really don't know if there's even if we ran down every team, I don't think there's many situations that Bryce Young could be in where he could be successful because I just think stature-wise he's too small to play the position.
Mm-hmm. Who did they pass up to get him?
C.J. Stroud. They could have had C.J. Stroud.
Woo.
And not only that, keep in mind, they traded up. Because the Bears played it smarter than everyone. And the Bears said, all right, we'll give you that pick. Give us the next year's pick. And then what the Bears did, they get Caleb Williams now. The Bears got DJ Moore from them in the trade and then still was able to trade Caleb Williams later.
That's crazy.
Hey, having a competent GM matters. With that being said, I want to remind everyone, make sure you subscribe to The Sanchez Show. We are the opinionated ones as part of The Sanchez Show, and we're live every Friday night. All right. Next week, we'll be back at 8:30 p.m. Will Gordon will be joining the show around 9 o'clock p.m. as we break down. We'll be going over the Thursday night game, and we'll actually be live during the Friday game, Will, next week.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so we'll be doing a lot. We're going to be doing a live podcast during the Friday game. So, guys, make sure you have your TV set to not only us, but to the game, because we're going to be talking about the game as it happens. I'm going to make sure I go dual monitor. We're going to have the game up and the podcast on. And then we'll be giving our breakdown and our picks for week 1 of the NFL season. Again, subscribe. Tune in next week. For my brother Will Gordon, I am Eric Sanchez. We are the opinionated ones as part of the Sanchez Show. And we'll be back next week. Everybody, have a happy, long holiday weekend. We out of here.